Let's dive into something that's pretty important, I think, but maybe we don't think about it nearly enough.
Okay.
Home network security.
Right.
Like you get a new gadget, you plug it in, maybe you glance at the privacy settings.
Yeah.
But what does it actually look like to secure a home network these days when it seems like everything is connected? Even your toaster could be a vulnerability.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not just talking hypotheticals here.
Yeah.
We are going to be diving deep into the NSA's own best practices for keeping your home network secure.
Yeah.
This is a publicly available guide, by the way.
Oh, very cool.
And, before you think, wait, the NSA, I'm not James Bond.
Right.
That's exactly the point. This stuff matters for everyone.
Yeah, it's true. And it's interesting that, this guide even exists, right?
Yeah.
I think it highlights a shift in how we even think about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
It's not just about protecting, top secret government data anymore.
Right.
It's recognizing that everybody's home is a potential target now.
It mentions everything from smart toasters to baby monitors as, potential entry points. You're kidding, right? Hackers are after my breakfast.
Well, not your breakfast specifically, but think about it this way.
Okay.
Every device you have is another point of entry.
Okay.
Another window into your network.
Okay.
And the guide calls this your attack surface.
Okay.
So the more connected your home is, the bigger that surface becomes.
Mm-hmm.
And the easier it is for someone who shouldn't be in there to find a way in.
So it's not about the toaster itself, but what a hacker could get to through it.
Exactly.
Which makes me think about the guide's top tip.
Right.
Upgrade your operating systems.
Oh, yeah.
I will be honest, I usually hit remind me later on those.
Right.
So why is it public enemy number 1 for the NSA?
Well, because outdated systems are they're just riddled with known vulnerabilities that haven't been patched. So it's imagine a software update packing a hole in your roof.
Okay.
Sure, it's easy to put off when the sun's shining.
Sure.
But then the storm hits and suddenly you've got a much bigger problem.
Yeah.
So.
Ouch. Yeah, I've learned that one the hard way with actual home repairs.
Right.
So you're saying those updates aren't just about new emojis or whatever.
Yeah.
They're literally patching holes that could expose our whole digital lives.
Yeah, precisely. And it's not just computers or phones either, right? Everything on your network that's connected.
Right.
Your smart fridge to your Wi-Fi extender.
Wow.
All need regular security updates.
You've given me a lot to think about already, and I bet our listeners are feeling it too.
Yeah.
Have you ever put off an update? What was your rationale?
Oh, gosh, all the time.
Okay, speaking of things we love to procrastinate on, let's talk passwords.
Yeah.
The NSA guide is really hammering on strong, unique passwords for every single account. And we all know we should, but is that one weak password really such a big deal?
Well, it might seem like a small thing, but it's often the first line of defense.
Right.
And what I find so interesting is how much the guide emphasizes that hackers exploit human nature. We're just not good at remembering dozens of complicated passwords.
Tell me about it. I've tried those password manager apps, but it still feels like I'm one forgotten master password away from just digital oblivion.
Right. I totally get it. But that's the thing. It's what's so difficult for our brains.
Yeah.
It's so easy for computers these days. They can run through millions, even billions of password combinations in a matter of seconds.
Oh, gosh.
So a weak password really is like leaving your front door unlocked.
And I'm guessing once they're in one account, they're going to try that same password on other sites, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like a domino effect of digital disaster.
Exactly. It's so common for people to reuse passwords across platforms.
Right.
So if a hacker cracks one, they suddenly have potentially access to a whole network of your personal information.
Okay.
That's why the guide is really hammering on unique passwords for everything.
Right.
It compartmentalizes your risk.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
But there's one piece of advice in here that really threw me for a loop.
Okay.
Using false answers for security questions.
Yeah.
Isn't that defeating the purpose?
It does seem counterintuitive.
Yeah.
But again, it's about understanding how these guys operate, right?
Okay.
So they're gathering information about you from all these different sources.
Right.
Social media, public records, data breaches, whatever they can get their hands on.
Wow.
And they're going to try those common answers.
Right.
So if you're giving them false information, you're basically throwing a wrench in their system.
So it's like a decoy. It's leading them down the wrong path.
Exactly.
Wow, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
For turning the tables.
And that kind of ties into another important concept here, multi-factor authentication.
Okay.
The guide really emphasizes this as an essential security layer.
Multi-factor authentication always sounds so technical, though.
Right. It's really not that bad.
Okay.
Think of it like this. You have a safe with a lock, right? That's your password.
Okay.
But then you add a second lock, maybe a combination lock, maybe a fingerprint scanner.
Okay.
That's multi-factor authentication. It's that second layer of protection.
Got it.
So even if someone cracks your password, they still need to get past that second factor.
So it's like double bolting your digital front door.
Exactly.
It might be a hassle, but that extra step could make all the difference.
Yeah. And whether it's a code texted to your phone, a fingerprint scan, a separate security key,
Right.
multi-factor authentication makes it exponentially harder for unauthorized access.
You've convinced me.
Okay.
No more remind me later when I see that pop up.
Good.
Okay, so on to a scenario I know I'm not alone in public Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Picture this. You are at a cozy coffee shop.
Yeah.
Laptop open, free Wi-Fi, flowing like caffeine. It's like the modern day version of curling up by the fireplace.
I love it.
What could go wrong, right?
Well, I mean, that idyllic picture might not be as relaxing if you really think about what's happening behind the scenes with that public Wi-Fi.
Okay, you've piqued my interest. What's the catch?
Imagine for a moment that instead of sending all of your information securely, you're writing it on a postcard that anyone can read.
Oh, no.
That's essentially what happens with public Wi-Fi. It's often an open network.
Wait, really?
Meaning anyone could potentially see the data you're sending and receiving.
So, all those online banking transactions, work emails, even just like browsing history.
Yeah.
Someone could be snooping on that.
It's a possibility if you're not careful. The guide even mentions sniffing.
Sniffing?
Yeah.
Okay, now you're just messing with me.
It was a real term.
Okay.
Hackers use software to capture data packets as they travel over the network.
Okay.
And if it's not secure, they could potentially piece together your online activity passwords, credit card numbers, the whole 9 yards.
That is creepy.
Yeah, and it makes that free Wi-Fi suddenly seem a little less appealing.
Right. So is the solution just to become a hermit and like never leave the house with my laptop?
Well, it's not always practical to avoid public Wi-Fi entirely.
Right.
But the guide actually has a solution for this. VPNs.
Okay. VPNs have always seemed a little mysterious to me.
Sure.
Like just like a magical 3-letter acronym that just makes everything secure.
Okay, so think about it this way. Imagine that public Wi-Fi network as a busy, crowded street.
Okay.
Anyone can see you walking down the street, right?
Right.
A VPN is like being able to duck into a secret tunnel that takes you directly to where you're going, hidden from view.
Oh.
So you're using the same infrastructure, but you're not exposed.
So it's not about making the Wi-Fi itself secure. It's creating like a secure connection through it.
Exactly. It encrypts your data, making it unreadable to anyone who might be trying to snoop.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
You've officially demystified the VPN for me.
I'm glad I could help.
Okay. I'm adding get a VPN to my to-do list right now.
You could.
I've definitely been guilty of just like, rolling the dice with public Wi-Fi in the past, but you've made the risks very clear.
And that's exactly why I think this guide is so valuable.
Yeah.
It's not just about telling you what to do.
Yeah.
But explaining the why behind it.
Right.
So that you can make these decisions for yourself.
Speaking of informed decisions.
Yes.
Let's move on to a topic that's especially relevant these days with so many people working remotely.
Okay.
Keeping your work and personal devices separate. The guide stresses this, but is it really that big of a deal to just quickly check your work email on your personal laptop? It might seem harmless, but it can actually have some significant security implications.
Yeah.
Because if we think back to that like attack surface we talked about,
right.
Every device is another entry point.
Exactly.
So when you're mixing your work and personal devices, you're essentially like merging those attack surfaces.
Exactly.
And just like increasing your vulnerability like exponentially, it feels like.
Yes. And it's not always something people think about, right?
Right.
Yeah. Imagine this. You're browsing the web on your personal laptop, right? And you accidentally download a malicious file or click on a phishing link.
Okay.
Let's say you also use that same laptop to access your work email or connect to your company's network remotely. You've potentially created a pathway for that malware to infect your entire workplace.
Ouch, talk about a workplace disaster.
Yeah.
And I thought accidentally replying all on an email was bad.
It's a risk a lot of people don't fully consider.
Yeah.
And so the guide really is emphasizing that separation for a reason.
Okay.
It's kind of like you wouldn't wear your muddy guardian shoes inside your pristine home, right?
Right.
You keep those worlds separate to avoid a mess. It's the same principle.
So are you saying people need to have like completely separate devices for work and personal use?
I mean, ideally, yes.
Okay.
That's the most secure approach.
Sure.
It's not always feasible for everybody.
Right.
But if you were going to use the same device for both,
Okay.
at the very least, create separate user accounts, one for work and one for personal. It at least creates a degree of separation.
Right, because even with different accounts, if the device itself is compromised,
Right.
it's still a problem.
Exactly. And that brings us to, I think, another key takeaway from this guide
Okay.
that's often overlooked, the human element.
Okay.
All the technology,
Yeah.
all the firewalls, all the VPNs in the world won't help if you're clicking on every phishing link that lands in your inbox.
Right, so it's about being proactive, not reactive.
Exactly.
Don't wait for the security breach to happen and then take it seriously.
Exactly. Think of it like this. You wouldn't wait until your house was on fire to buy a fire extinguisher.
Right.
You take precautions beforehand to mitigate the risk.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, so for our listeners out there who are ready to level up their home network security based on what we've talked about today,
Yeah.
what's one concrete action they could take today?
You know, if I had to pick just one, I would say enable multi-factor authentication on as many of your accounts as possible.
Such a good tip.
It's a really simple step
Yeah.
that can make a world of difference.
And you know what? That's something I can literally do right now.
There you go.
No more remind me later for me.
I love it.
Well, that was quite a deep dive into the world of home network security.
Yeah, it's a lot of information.
We covered a lot of ground, but hopefully this gave our listeners a really solid foundation
Like so.
to kind of protect themselves in this increasingly digital world that we live in.
And remember, it's not about achieving perfect invulnerability.
Right?
Because that's impossible.
Yeah.
It's about being aware of the risks and taking reasonable steps to mitigate them.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Yeah.
Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure.